I've been invited to speak about this ligament stitch, which was invented actually many years ago, I think approximately 1983. And David Hungerford, who's my senior colleague, advanced the idea of tightening the medial side of the knee for management or in severe valgus deformities. The idea was to move the capsular sleeve and the medial collateral ligament distally, and I began to think about how we could improve that fixation. Okay, so here's a diagrammatic representation of a bad valgus deformity with a stretched medial collateral ligament. I felt we had to have a better way even to pull the thin sleeve of tissue and to hold it, knowing the longitudinal fibers would not be a very good fixation when they would not be adequately fixed by the use of a staple alone. Next. So again, I wanted to pull the tissue. I wanted to be able to maintain a tight hold on the tissue and not do anything that would purse string it together with a suture. So I was about 3 blocks away from the hospital, driving the car, thinking about this, when it hit me that locking loops in a suture would grab the bundles and they would allow me to pull this sheet of capsular tissue together with the ligament distally. So for the first couple of years I used it and we began to evaluate it in the laboratory for publication purposes. There seemed to be no particular concern or problems with the suture. So here we have 3 of the publications. You can perhaps enlarge them on your own and get to them. Here we were with the bovine product that was actually implanted into people back in those days. And you see how the stitch works, and you see how the ligament suture side has been able to pull it through a very securely fastened soft tissue staple. This is a summary graph showing the superior strength at the far right upper right hand corner in pull-out strength compared to about all the other ways one could think about attaching the tendon. So we showed the strength. We showed that even sutures through bone-like material were not very strong at all, and in general the suture material, if it's chosen properly for the tissue, that will actually break before the suture will pull out. So that's when and why. So we'll go ahead now and look at how the stitch is done. One of the points to keep in mind is that as we go through the 3 different steps of the locking loop and then move over to the come in the opposite direction, the actual movement of the needle holder is the same on both sides, and if you just keep that in mind, it makes it a little bit easier. So we'll look at the video in a second. Okay, here the sutures have actually been put through skin. We missed the very first placement of the suture, but you see how we have things locked. We're going to need to lock the suture underneath. That's okay. That's been apparently edited out. Now here's the 3rd loop, and we're holding the suture off to the side so that we automatically lock. Okay, pulling to the right hand of this view, and now we're crossing over a little bit. When we're moving our needle driver the same way as we did coming up on the other side, and here it's as if we don't lock the suture. All right, it looks that way, but it's going to look a little different when we get the next loop in place. Okay, so that's the way that we actually have locked the upper left corner that we just had. and that's it. So that's how it's done. And I just say I feel fortunate we've created something that's useful. We've studied it, and published it, and I've lived to see it and enjoy its value. Thank you very much.